Yeah, the roof is up, and like in the last episode I described that I can stand up on both levels without touching the ceiling. So at the moment it's going to be a case of painting red oxide primer on all the bare metal and the old roof metal, and of course treating this rust down the middle, and then painting it with hammerite so then it's protected, and then start to insulate it and also put in the wooden ribs which will eventually accommodate for the wooden cladding. So still got a very, 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 very long way to go. One thing I've started doing is just spraying the bare metal with some brake and clutch cleaner and wiping it down just to get off any kind of loose grease and things. Now where a lot of the welding has happened, it's caused a lot of these burn marks, and a lot of the old paint has started to flake away. So I'm just going to need to get a wire brush on this and get it all off so it's completely bare, ready to be painted. So there's some preparation to do before I can actually paint. Okay, so things have come on quite nicely since yesterday. So I managed to get one coat of red oxide on pretty much everywhere on the roof and the sides, the new parts of the sides. So I'm just going to do a second coat of red oxide, and then when that's dry I can paint it all with hammerite, and then we start the next stage. So progress is coming along quite nicely. The roof has had one layer of white hammerite, so it does need a second one because you can see where the layer is quite thin. Now one of the things is it's really hot today, and it was actually my mum doing the painting in here today, and she was saying the ceiling is so hot that the paint was drying as she was putting it on. If I put my hand on that, it's like touching a hot radiator. So I'm going to do the second coat of paint this evening when it's a bit cooler and the sun subsides a bit, because that is hot. Now despite the fact my mum has been doing a lot of the painting, I have not been sitting around doing nothing. So one of the troubles is I have had headlight issues, and the bulbs kept blowing, and I've cleaned up the earth here. So this is basically just an earth cable that goes onto the metal there, but it was very rusty. So I've cleaned it up, and I will get some paint on that bare metal so it doesn't rust up again. So hopefully that will cure the earthing problem. However, there is another area where I cleaned up all the earth, which is underneath, and I'll show you where it is. So underneath the vehicle we've got the chassis here, and on the chassis is this cluster of earth wires that go onto this plate, and this was a very rusty area, and I took every single nut off individually and the connectors as well, and I've cleaned them up. So hopefully that will also help with the earthing of things, and it took me a while to actually locate that. It wasn't quite as colourful as it is now because it was all black when I found it, but I had to trace the wires back and I found, this is where everything else earths out. I have also been adjusting the timing. So on the distributor here, the engine was backfiring a lot, and particularly when the engine got hot it would kick back and backfire and chuff. So I've been doing some adjustments, but I haven't been able to test it yet because the battery is flat and it didn't start. So I am waiting for that to charge up. Also on this hot day I've been using my caravan. Although it's scruffy, it is insulated, so it's a lot cooler in here. This is kind of like my makeshift workshop at the moment. And here we have the engine cover, which is currently upside down. So I've treated it with 2 coats of red oxide, 2 coats of hammerite, and I have insulated it, which is the same insulation I'm using on the walls, and it's fire resistant, and it can also cope with the temperatures that the engine produces, so it should be fine. So hopefully that will deaden a lot of the engine noise. So the camper is round at my parents' at the moment, and we've been doing all sorts of bits and pieces. So the roof has had its 2 coats of paint, so it's ready to have its wooden ribs and everything and insulation put on at some point. But what we've been working on so far is the wheel arches. So what's going on out here?
Well, this is fine carpentry, and as yet there's no sign of an Uncle Sam's, so I'm down in tools.
Oh dear.
This
You
is
got a hatch.
This is going to be a hatch.
Brilliant.
To infinity and beyond.
And what are you doing, Mum?
Well, I'm measuring insulation
To
of
go.
varying sizes, because actually this is not a straight edge, I've just noticed, which is not very helpful in terms of measuring.
And they're going on this wheel arch. And then Dad has started boxing out these bits, and that hatch is to go over that one. So there's a little cubby hole in there.
It's going to be really hard. This is the same length as the other one, yeah? But the wheel arch hole's not in the same place.
It's because it's French. So this wheel arch here has been fully insulated and part of the boxing in process has started. But the one on this side is fully enclosed, so underneath the wood is insulation like on the other side, and then my dad has made this little hatch here which goes into this part where you can get access to the fuel pipe. That's the filler cap for the petrol, so it's not really a space I'm going to use, but it's good to be able to access it. So these little cubby holes are factory finish originals, and I think they were really intended to keep things like oil cans, spare fuel, tools and things. They're a bit grubby in here, but I thought they would actually be quite ideal to keep spare engine oil, maybe a little kind of like scissor jack type thing. So good to have them. One of the things, when these new double glazed windows went in, they're 14mm thick, and the people that fit them, the largest size seals they could get were about 12mm. So they do bulge a little bit, and there are a few areas where the water comes in because there are gaps, but they did kind of warn me this might happen. So I've got some special sealant stuff which I'm slowly going around the edges to make sure they're completely watertight. So I've put the sealer around this window. I haven't exactly done the neatest job. I mean, I have tried, but you won't be able to see this anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But this stuff is good because when it sets quite hard, but it still remains quite rubbery and flexible, so as the engine is running and causing vast amounts of vibration and you're going up and down on the road, it will allow the window to move a little bit without splitting and hopefully retaining a nice watertight seal. So all of the tyres, including the spare, were fairly rough, with some had cracks in the side of the walls, and the spare itself was in very poor shape. So I've taken the wheels off and found a garage that can fit some, and it was not easy to find somewhere. So the actual size that this takes is a size that you can't get anymore, which made it really difficult. But thanks to various people in the owners club on Facebook recommended some tyre sizes that you can get that will just about fit on these wheels. But the garages, trying to get garages to fit them wasn't easy, because first of all they got inner tubes and they said no, this is a tubeless tyre. And I said it might be a tubeless tyre, but it's not a tubeless rim, it's for a 60-odd-year-old French commercial. And the other thing is, on the rear wheels, the rims actually pop open, so they split in half, which means they have to be reassembled in a cage because of the risk of them bursting when they're doing it. So I had to go through several garages before I found somewhere that would do them, but the place I found were a commercial place, so fingers crossed I get them back. And then pretty much as soon as I've got them back, off I go.